So welcome to the panel discussion at Ji.hlava industry program, and thank you to our audience for joining us. This debate is an essential part of Visegrad Accelerator, which is a Ji.hlava platform for film professionals from V4 countries. This panel is called Opportunities, Challenges and Innovations in Film Distribution in Visegrad region. And here with me, I would like to welcome film distributors from Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia, who will discuss their regional specifics, challenges they are facing right now, and potential cross-border cooperations. So I would like to welcome Matej Sotník from Film Expanded in Slovakia. Hello, Matej.
Hello, and thank you for invitation.
Jakub Duszyński from Gutek Film Distribution in Poland.
Hello, dzień dobry. Hello, everyone.
Gábor Böszörményi from Mozinet Distribution Hungary.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And Andrle from Aerofilms Distribution in Czech Republic.
Hi.
And at the beginning, I would like to ask you to define your editorial policy of your company and tell us what are the challenges that you are facing right now, and if you can be specific around your country. So you can start, Jakub.
By editorial policy, you mean lineup, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Gutek Film is acting on our market for the last 25 years, and we're releasing approximately 18 to 20 films every year. And these are festival darlings, films we pick up at major film festivals like Cannes, Berlin, Venice, Toronto. We try to balance our lineup. So it's obvious that we try to have at least 2 to 3 films which could cross 100,000 admissions at our box office, but also we look for discoveries. So we are open to films that made by directors that no one heard of, and we want to establish them in Poland, as we love to act as promoters, as people who promote things they discover and love. And so we are here to share these discoveries. That's in a few words what we do.
Thank you. And what is happening right now in Poland? Are the cinemas closed, or are you still having admissions? How is the situation?
Cinemas remain open for now, yet they are limited to 25% of their capacity. They can sell only 25% of the tickets for the total capacity, right? I don't know if it's understood what it means. And that means that the revenue is diminished. It's much smaller, and it cannot cover the costs of majority of cinemas. We are running one of the theaters in Warsaw, the cinema called Muranów, and it is pretty successful. It's our flagship art house theater, yet still with around 1,000 admissions every weekend and also another 1,000 throughout the weekdays. This is not enough to feed the crew, the overheads, the costs of running the theater. So we're now lobbying strongly for an additional system of support for our screens, for cinemas in Poland. We means the industry from Poland.
And are you postponing some releases to a later date, or how is your strategy right now? What you do?
Cinemas reopened in Poland on July 6th. And in July, we already opened 2 films. One was a hardcore art house release of Carlos Reigada's Our Time, and the other was a very much delayed Traitor from Marco Bellocchio. And even though the results were not satisfying, but I wouldn't say they were disastrous, because we reached at the end of the day, I don't know, on the Traitor some 15,000 admissions, and on Reigada's film around 4. But we decided we have to keep on going. Show must go on, as cinemas badly need new content. So we decided to release a new title every 3 to 4 weeks. And that's what we've been doing. But now it's fall, the numbers are going up, and it's really difficult to convince our audiences to go to movies. And we totally understand it. And we believe that safety goes first. So, for example, when it comes to our upcoming release that was set for November 27th, one of our upcoming releases, we decided to rather go for preview screenings and allow theaters that want to program the film to show it to their audiences. But the general release, the premiere, is going to be moved to next year. Because we can see the numbers going up, and we are not sure if that release happens next year. We are not sure. Yeah.
Cross the fingers. So Gábor, how is the situation in Hungary, and can you introduce Mozinet to our audience?
Sure. We started distributing around 15 years ago, and we have 15, 16 movies a year. Our lineup is a bit similar to what Gutek has, or at least I would like to have something similar to what they have. But we have a bit more Hungarian movies. So like out of these 50 movies, every year we have 2-3 Hungarian movies. So we are aiming at festival darlings as well, films that are winning at festivals. We are also open to first-time directors and trying to find some little gems that will work in the cinemas. We are mainly working with art house cinemas, but every year we have 2 or 3 movies that we dub and that we put into the multiplexes as well. Our biggest successes were Hungarian movies like Son of Soul, where we did almost 300,000 admissions, or On Body and Soul, where we did 150,000 admissions. But like with an average art house, European art house movie in the Hungarian cinemas, usually what we aim is like 5,000 admissions, and some movies with 10,000 admissions, we are really happy. If we have something like 40, 50,000, like with Youth or Whitetails, that's already a big success. The cinemas closed here as everywhere in March, and they reopened in July or end of June. And since then, there are not so much restrictions. Actually, during the summer, there were no restrictions at all. Now you have to wear a mask, but otherwise the cinemas are, they can do whatever they want. We don't know what will happen in November. A lot of people expect now that in November there will be more restrictions. So since the cinemas reopened, we released a few movies that we had to postpone during the spring, like Traitor, as Gutek had. We had like 1,000 admissions, so nobody really cared. Or we had The Invisibles, or we had the Bears' famous Invasion of Sicily. So these 3 movies, we started pre-screenings much earlier, and we had a release date set for March or April, and we had to postpone them for July, and the audience didn't care about these movies. So we could feel that these movies already got old in a way. But we had another release in July, that's The Translators, French thriller movie, not so art house. With that, we had nice results, almost 15,000 admissions. So we had the feeling that people who are usually going to more mainstream movies, now they don't have enough content. So as there is no Hollywood movies coming to the multiplexes, they would choose a French thriller because it seems like something that can be a substitute for the Hollywood movies. And then in September, we had a release of a Hungarian movie called, it's a long title, Preparation to Be Together for an Unknown Period of Time. This movie opened in Venice, and it just won now in Warsaw, actually, the Fipreski Prize. And with this movie, this is an art house love story, but like really art house movie. But we just crossed the 15,000 admissions, and we have very good slots still. So with this movie, we have actually we are lucky in a way, if we can say that, with the COVID situation, because the movie can be on the programming of the cinemas for much longer. and we have very good slots, and there is no competition, and we have an amazing press coverage of the movie because there are no other movies to talk about. So probably we will reach 20,000 admissions. If the cinemas are not going to close, then it can go even higher. Today we are opening the Mozinet Film Days. Mozinet Film Days is a special festival/distribution platform. We are releasing 8 new movies, like pre-screening 8 movies that will be released later. And this festival takes place in 15 cities, in 15 different cinemas in 15 different cities at the same time. So this is like a countrywide event. And now I can feel that as well, that the press coverage is much bigger than usually because there is nothing else to talk about. Of course, this is a big risk. I mean, for half a year we have been discussing it, if we should do it, we shouldn't do it, we should do it, we shouldn't do it. We spend a lot of money, and at the end, I mean, it can happen that the cinemas are closing today because we have no idea. But it seems that it's going to happen, and what we expect is like half of our normal results. Usually we have around 5,000 admissions on the Mozinet Film Days, and now I expect to have like half of it. And then these movies we are going to release, if we can, until March. So to sum it up, we are doing things as everything was normal in a way, but when it comes to acquisitions or when it comes to planning ahead, I have to say that I simply stopped buying movies. So we have these 8 movies. Then we have next year we have 4 Hungarian movies, and I don't plan to buy any new foreign movies. I don't plan to pay to invest into MGs, and until we see what's happening. Because unfortunately in Hungary, the television market is very small and unpredictable. So we only sell a few of our movies to TV. The VOD is there, but sometimes it's only a few €100. The DVD is dead. So we rely on cinemas mostly.
And do you have also any governmental support or recovery fund, any measures for the crisis?
Well, now we can apply for the normal subsidy for the distribution that comes every year. That means that the maximum for each movie is around €8,000, but usually what we get is something between €2,000 and €3,000. But this has no connection with the COVID, so this is like a regular scheme. And actually, we have news that this scheme might not happen next year again. So this might be the last time when this scheme happens. Regarding the COVID, so there was one scheme where we got the maximum support, and that support was a bit less than €3,000. So that's what a distributor could get, €3,000. And we don't have any news about other kind of schemes.
So Ivo, your situation is a bit different because the cinemas in Czech Republic are closed right now. So can you introduce Aerofilms and then talk about how you are dealing with the situation right now?
Yes, cinemas are closed, so we lost our most favorite toy at the moment. But Aerofilms is, in terms of profile, is very similar to Jakub and Gábor's companies, what they do in Poland and Hungary. We just follow and try to do successfully here in Czech Republic. So we basically also release art house and art house to mainstream films in numbers of 15 to 20 every year. What is important, I think, for the three of us, and it wasn't mentioned here, is that we are all very much theatrical figures, that all the films that we buy go through theatrical release, or 99% of it. And that's very important. We come from a cinemas background, all of us. And I think it's very much reflected in what kind of films we like and what kind of films we know how to work with. So I think that's important to mention. And otherwise, we do not prefer any territories, we do not prefer any genre. Basically, our slogan says we love to, how to say it in English, we love to distribute films that we would love to see in cinemas ourselves. So when there is, you know, it's a combination of heart and bullet. You know, we need to like the film in order to work with it, but we also need to find ways how to make money to be able to buy the next movie. And that's the story of Aerofilms, I think. As a, you know, temporary situation here with the locked cinemas, it's very unfortunate, of course, and it was also unfortunate in the spring. Like in every territory, this is, you know, influencing our work very much. But our position was that we quickly try to focus on whatever we can do online. So we opened a, you know, virtual cinema in spring and start organizing cinema screenings online, which we are doing again now. We also try to work as much as possible on our VOD platform, AeroVOD, where the numbers grew rapidly throughout the lockdowns, and now they are growing again. So, you know, there were positive things. We were also very, very lucky with our biggest release ever at Aerofilms that happened this year. It was a documentary film, Síti, which we, by pure luck, released some, I don't know, not even 20 days before the lockdown, February last year. It became an instant hit, #1 in the box office in a tough competition of all the commercial titles. And then the producers and us, we felt horrible when there was a lockdown because we felt like we are losing so much of the film's potential. The truth was that later, after the cinemas reopened, Síti returned to the cinemas with the same strength because most of the competitors and the commercial films postponed their releases. So, and Síti was the big thing that was ready on the very first day as the cinemas reopened to be there on screen. So I think it's hard to compare, but I think actually that at the end, Síti made more admissions thanks to the Corona lockdown than it would have made if there was no Corona lockdown, actually, because the whole summer there was, you know, many people that wanted to go to cinema. There was not so much choice, and Síti was the prime choice for many people to see. So we were a very lucky distributor on this side. The unfortunate, you know, I had an interview here 2 days ago with a journalist, and I kept saying about positive impacts of coronavirus that at the end I had to make sure that the title of the article is not Aerofilms says Corona is a blessing, you know, or something, which is not. It's a horrible thing happening, and I'm just trying to, even in this hell, to see some positive things. What was on the negative side, for example, Síti was a documentary that was, that's probably the most important impact of the documentary could have been on the school children and their education about online and how careful they need to be in the online world. This part of the distribution was very carefully planned. We had hundreds of schools prepared. We had the filmmakers scheduled for traveling around the country for 3 weeks to multiple screenings and debates. Unfortunately, that was all canceled in spring. So we moved it to fall and it has been canceled again. So that is very unfortunate situation. We decided at the end to offer direct screenings to the classrooms in schools. which is kind of a very new approach and not easy to do, but I think we found a way how to make it actually technically and administration ways to go directly to schools. But now the schools are closed too, so we are just on hold and preparing this to happen as soon as the school kids are back to school. We want to this project to take place because it's not just online screening in the classroom, but we will also have interactive debates right after the screening. So the kids in the school, in their classroom, they can ask questions, the filmmakers, right after they see the film. And this way we can definitely serve large numbers of schools at the same time. So it's in a way more convenient than organizing film screenings, you know. So we take this as an opportunity also to find new ways of, you know, finding, you know, viewers for our films, basically. Yeah, I should stop here.
We have some more questions for you. Do you have a strategy for the upcoming months? Are you holding some films releases, or are you buying new films? How are you planning your following month, basically, as a distributor?
Yeah, I mean, we have to put on hold many of our releases, including the first ever production of Aerofilms, Czech documentary called Sféra z Českého rybolovu, which was due to release at the end of November, which I don't think is going to happen. So yeah, I mean, we basically have to put everything on standby mode, stop spending money on the releases and wait until the situation allows us to open cinemas. We want to be back in the cinemas as soon as possible with our films. So we want to make sure that everything is ready and we're just waiting for the signal. But at the moment, there is not much to do anymore on those releases. So we concentrate and focus on the online world and cleaning our office, etc.
Thank you. So Matej, how is the situation in Slovakia? And can you introduce your company that is specifically focusing only documentaries, as I said?
Yeah, this situation in Slovakia is complicated as everywhere, but maybe even more complicated with our government, which make decisions from day to day. And it's now cinema are closed since last Wednesday. So it's the same like in Czech Republic. And yeah, what else to add? Maybe we are very much different from all of you here because we are like young distribution company. Sort of we define us as a boutique distribution company. And at the beginning, in 2016, we were focusing on the school screenings, and we established a platform or initiative called Documentary on Hills, or Dokument na kolesách. And then in 2018-19, we started to focusing on also on a regular distribution or a classic distribution, but what makes sense to us really and it's also reflecting the films in our catalog, which is documentary art house. For example, last time in cinema we had the documentary debut Frame of Věra Čakaniová, which was actually released in world premiere in last year, Ji.hlava. And so we are focusing, we are providing all kinds of physical distribution services, but mostly so-called alternative distribution. But by my experience, I prefer to call it as event distribution or non-classical distribution. And yeah, so that's basically the philosophy. And because in the end, you are promoting particular event with a specific value in the specific space or specific environment with a specific activities, not necessarily discussions with experts, but also not necessarily only the discussion with experts, but also, and yeah, and it's also connected with our portfolio in a way that we don't distribute so many films now, because because it's take lots of work to prepare all those events and to promote promote them somehow. Yeah, and what else to add?
Are you doing right now some strategies in terms of innovative ways of distribution? Are you working on certain online streamings, VOD platforms?
Yeah, what is today? Wednesday. On Monday, we released on Árofilms SK Frem. And so, but we are very glad that we also have this format, what Ivo mentioned, this Kino Doma or Kino at Home, which is not not the same as a VOD, and we really appreciate that that Union of Film Distributors like we can give those numbers from Kino Doma at official statistics, which is good for the films, and so we are focusing on it, and also cooperating with the Árofilms. So that's what we do, and preparing mostly preparing and preparing next year. Yeah, films and projects. Yeah.
So let's hope that following year will be better than this one in terms of theatrical distribution. So how is it, Jakub and Gábor, in Poland and Hungary? Because the way people make films has changed, but also the way people are watching the films has changed, and now during the pandemic even more. Is it an opportunity for VOD platforms and a loss for theatrical, or is there any way how a theatrical distributor can win in this situation?
Gábor, the floor is yours.
Okay, dziękuję. Well, we started our VOD platform that's based on Aerofilms. It's called Synago. We started it in May, so it would have been better, of course, to start it a bit earlier. But we felt is that the lockdown and this whole situation really gave it a big push. But I don't really see that we could have a business model just on VOD. So I don't see that amount of users who would, I mean, buying a movie, paying the right, even if the MGs are going lower, and that's what's happening. Doing the subtitling, doing the HD file, and doing promotion and everything. For a country, we are 10 million, so the market is not big enough to have a business model just built on a VOD. But it's a very good extra revenue, especially if you have 100 movies on a Synago or Aerofilms or whatever, and each movies are making some money. Then of course it's adding up. So that's good. The other part of your question, like what we can do theatrically or new possibilities. What I expect is, so my benchmark is in a way what happened 10 years ago in Hungary. That's when the crisis hit really hard the cinemas in 2000, mainly 2009, 2010, 2011, and the number of admissions dropped to half. That means that those years there were like 8 million admissions a year in the Hungarian cinemas, and that was only because of financial reasons, because people didn't have money to go to the cinemas. And I think that this crisis, the financial crisis that is coming here, is going to be similar to what happened then. So and now of course the situation is much worse because people are afraid to go to the cinemas. That was not there 10 years ago, and you have so many things to watch at home. I mean, you can't watch all the things that interest you on HBO Go, Netflix, all the other streaming services. So I believe that the next year and even 2022 is going to be hard for the cinemas. In Hungary, there's a good thing in this sense that most of the art house cinemas are owned by the local municipalities. So it's up to the cities if they want to save them or not. But of course, there are a few cinemas that are in big trouble now, like Circo, who is a distributor as well, and they have their own cinema. It's their own project, that cinema, so they don't belong to the municipality, and it hits really hard. It hits them really hard that the number of admissions just so I think a lot of cinemas are going to fight now to survive, and if they don't survive, I mean, for us the distributors, I think it's much easier to cut costs and to say that, okay, I'm not buying movies for a few years or for 1 year, or I'm only releasing very small movies just to keep going, and I only aim to have a few thousand admissions and not a few 10,000s of admissions. But for the cinemas, it's much tougher. Jakub?
Yeah, thank you. We are focused very much on theatrical market because our experience, and we aged along the way. Our experience was connected to cinemas. We were watching films at cinemas as much as possible, traveling abroad, and also before we started working in distribution. And then, of course, we got spoiled because theatrical market grew in Poland, increased numbers with the success and phenomenon of local cinematography. Local films became very popular in Poland in the last couple of years. So suddenly the box office exploded, and multiplexes started to invest in new screening halls and additional screening rooms. There was a little bit more space even for our major releases, not for the smallest films from Regadas, but for Almodovar. Suddenly we could open it on 120 screens compared to 30, 20, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we could open films in much smaller scale. And some of our releases were extremely successful. Parasite did almost 550,000 admissions. But also some French comedies worked very well. And suddenly we could see that what we're getting from VOD in the early days of VOD, not now, but in the early days of VOD, we felt it's 1/10 or even less of what we're getting from theatrical. But obviously COVID is a game changer. And I feel it's I'm much less advanced in terms of our own platform than Ivo and Gábor is, because we simply do not have our own platform. And when people are asking us, what about Gutek? Is it available online? Of course it is. We are available on all the bigger platforms that are in Poland, yet we do not have ours. Sometimes we feel it's a little bit like asking a handball players to play a volleyball. It's same but different rules in a way. So theatrical distribution was always focused. No, you disagree, Ivo. You're laughing at me. I can see that. I tried to say something about sports because I know you like it. But theatrical distribution was always about singling out a particular film and creating as many ideas as possible around its promotion. And we loved it. Maybe we can twitch a little bit and tune up the trailer. Maybe we can make a different poster. Maybe we can position Antichrist by Lars von Trier more as a horror film and reach out for the genre audiences, stuff like that. And we loved it, this experimentation. And then suddenly, if we were lucky, there was a success and we knew that our ideas caused that success. With VOD, we feel that since SVOD is such a big thing rather than TVOD, at least in Poland, we would need to work with volumes of content. So we would need to take our 100 films and promote them as a whole through our brand, and our brand is strong, but we still feel it's not enough. So we would need to do what Ivo and Gábor already did. We would need to contact other distributors, get more content, and that's something that we are discussing, that we are trying to envision as our future. We want to hook up with some strong brands, obviously, some maybe strong festivals in Poland, strong labels, and create something together rather than opening a platform where you could find our films on SVOD. I am tempted. For me, a perfect scenario for the future would be if we could sense growing potential for TVOD or PVOD. If we could figure out with cinemas in the future, if there's a way to make them, to include them in the success or the sales of premium VOD, some films that would open day and date or very quickly after theatrical, that would be very interesting. I would be very much interested in looking at one title, promote that title, and monetize, the internet release of such a film. For now, every person that I'm talking to is discouraging me, saying like, this is not going to work. If you take an art house film and you premiere it in Poland, that single film, you're never going to recoup. And they are probably right. But maybe in the future, we're going more and more, and I'm curious about your opinions, towards that TVOD market, where we could promote one film rather than the volume of our films and our catalog, and encourage people to see that one film on a premiere day, just like the big studios are doing now with their blockbuster content.
And was it the situation that so far the cinema exhibitors were pretty much against this idea? Do you think that this situation, the COVID crisis, might change their opinion?
No, I wouldn't say that they were against. They were trying to find a way to rescue themselves. So actually, I feel that Polish Association of Art House Cinemas immediately started to create their own platform that would help and support cinemas. So actually in Poland, what they did was they immediately opened a platform, a professional one, and they wanted to play as many films as possible so people would watch films online, as these were the additional screening rooms, and the profit from these screenings would go directly to cinemas. There was a very for me, a little bit complicated system of how do you share the revenue from these online screenings among, I don't know, 100 cinemas in Poland, but that's less relevant now. But I believe they were very open, and they are open now. It's just that, simply we realize that only films that were so far successful in cinemas work well on that platform. And now, during the last 6 months, there were not that many successful titles in Poland in general. And we didn't have a single successful title. We had films that lost a lot or broke even sometimes. And those that broke even were very surprising to me. It was like Arab Blues or The County. I never expected these films to break even, but they did in COVID because they had during COVID times, because they had very little competition. So suddenly our small releases earned enough money to cover our expenses, which was amazing. But nevertheless, these are not the films that would generate a lot of profit on VOD. And so we are cooperating with theaters on their platforms. We are allowing them to play the films. Sometimes we have a little bit of an argument about how do we share the profits, about the percentage, but I'm not going to go into detail because they come from a different world and they would rather keep the majority of the profits. And that would be an exception that we're not willing to make, to offer them way better terms than we can offer to the platforms in Poland. We can offer them slightly better terms to support them, because for us, just like Gábor said, it's essential that they stay alive. So we can go a long distance to support them. We decided, for example, in Poland, immediately upon reopening of cinemas, that we would leave majority of the profit on our small releases like The Traitor with cinemas, because really for us, it would be a disaster if they collapse. For us, if we lose theaters and if there is this implosion happening now and next year, obviously our market would shrink. And I cannot imagine that we could act as we did before. We would need to also decrease the level of our company. And that's not something that I'm looking forward to, even though reality may force us to do it in the future. I hope not. So of course we're open to the online, we're open to creating together with strong labels in Poland, a platform. Not sure if we're gonna have a lot of fun from that, because releasing films was a lot of fun. It was dangerous, scary, but also I love that gamble. I don't know, maybe I'm curious if Gábor and Ivo feel that same, or maybe Matej with his experimentation with online, feel that gamble. Like if you press the right buttons, if you fuel your online releases with certain ideas, you can win big. That's something I love about distribution.
Ivo, I know that you, even during the first crisis, that you released a couple of films like Fireball only in online world. It wasn't going to the cinemas. How did it work? Was it, do you consider it an option? And how do you also work with the VOD platform? Do you have, is it growing basically? And also my third question to you is that I know that you are working a lot with the local cinemas. How is it going right now?
There is so many topics. If this was an online discussion, we would be all probably jumping into Jakub's and Gábor's ideas, because there is so many times I want to react. So
I know.
basically, in general, my feeling is that we should always start with saying that there is not one solution for every film. For us, each film is different, and each film needs special care and probably special timing and special type of release. Maybe there are films that at the end, the best you can do for them is to release them date, because this is going to bring them the most audiences, and this is maybe bringing the most effective way how to release them. Maybe there are films that deserve pure theatrical run first and then go online. Maybe there are films that, you know, different principles that want to be introduced online first to, you know, spread the word of mouth, maybe to actually recognize them in the market, and then go theatrical, which also happening mostly illegally, but, you know, it's also a situation we have been facing many times with our films. So what I think is that what was happening already before Corona is that the old stacked principles of releasing films were slowly being undermined by first the independent market, but also the majors were approaching the ideas of shortening the classic. What happened during the Corona crisis is basically that the things escalated much farther and much more quickly than it would normally go. So now even the big players are thinking what is best for them in terms of changing the rules, changing the principle, looking on other possibilities. And so I think also for us, this is going to bring a lot of new opportunities. You know, let me be more concrete. Like if you are releasing film with multiplexes here, most of the times you are asked to actually not to release the film on any other platform or way in next certain period of time, let's say 4 months. It can be released on TV, it can be released online, it can be shown anywhere. And you have to promise this to the cinemas before they program the film. And it can be fine with some films, but maybe for some films this is not the best idea, because you know, you pay for the campaign, after 2 weeks the film is you know, killed by another title in the cinemas, and it's thrown away, and then you have 3.5 months to wait before you can find your next audience online. maybe, you know, shortening this window for this type of film would be better thing. And I think these principles are going to change. We see that actually within the microcosmos of audiovisual industry, everything is interconnected: production, distribution, cinemas, commercial cinemas, art house cinemas. And my point of view at the moment is that the most fragile part of this industry at the moment are the commercial cinemas, the multiplexes actually. They didn't have such a great summer compared to the theatrical cinema, to the art house cinemas. The affinity of the commercial audience to their cinemas, to their local multiplex, is not as strong as the affinity of more art house audiences to their local little, you know, few screen cinemas. So they are losing the audience much faster. The commercial audience is, I think, more quickly or faster to jump to a home viewing of a big hit. They don't necessarily look for the theatrical experiences. And I'm not happy about it because, as I said, it's all interconnected. And if we lose or the power or the position of the commercial cinemas is shaken too much, we are all going to lose, because there will be enough screens to the local production. There won't be enough screens to actually, you know, make money. There won't be enough. There will, you know, people would kind of look for substitutes for their free time. We need to make sure that people have in their mind that the cinema going is a good way to spend their time, and we can all profit from it. It's not divided to commercial or art house. It's just the state of mind of the society, where you want to make sure that in this mind, somewhere deep inside, people know that going to cinema is okay thing to do. You know, and if you lose the screens, if you lose the position of the cinemas, you are losing this on every level. And that's what actually I'm fearing the most now at the moment. This part of the industry seems to be very fragile right now. I'm not sure if I'm answering your questions.
Yes, you are.
But this is what I have in mind, actually. Otherwise, yeah, what else was it? What did you ask? I'm sorry.
How did you you release the films like Farewell, for example, online? And
Yeah.
it was not going to theatrical. Was it, do you consider it a good decision?
Yeah, because but just because there was really no other option, and we were looking for content online. We knew it's not, you know, online release is not comparable to, in terms of revenues. It's not comparable to, you know, proper successful theatrical release. So to make decision to just go online immediately means you are cutting off, you know, huge percentage of your potential revenues. But if the cinemas are closed and you have your nice online platform and you want to feed it with something cool and, you know, make sure that you have something to offer to your audiences, then you just go for it. And, you know, we are fine, we did it. It's, online is basically, as Jakub said, online is not ready, and Gábor mentioned it too. It's not like we could buy a movie and just release it online and believe that this is a business model that can be functional in the long term. As of today, I am not ready to make substantial offer to a sales company for a movie without theatrical rights. That just doesn't work for us. And also what Jakub was mentioning, the fun is missing at the end, not only the money, but also the excitement about theatrical release is missing there. And I don't think Aerofilms will go this way. On the other side, speaking of TVOD, Jakub, you mentioned if TVOD could ever work. From our experiences on AeroVOD, TVOD works greatly if you have a big title and you are releasing on TVOD and you are one of the first platforms to do it. It works greatly as an attention catcher. You can use this release to promote your platform as such. And anytime
Ivo, let me interrupt. Big title means the one that scored well in cinemas, or big
Exactly.
title means, you see how it's connected. Yeah,
exactly. Yes, like when we have, I don't know, you have a successful release of Green Book, and then the time comes and you put it on TVOD. Green Book is such a, has already the renommee from the cinemas. That was a good point. And thank you, Jakub, for that. So that each attention to the online release, that you actually build your SVOD on it, because as soon as you get the attention from people that have never heard of your little platform through the title, then they get attracted and they check check other titles, and maybe they fall in love with it and they're like, wow, I want to subscribe here, So TVOD as and then if you sell one TVOD, but alongside you get 2 subscriptions that send you a little bit of money every month for the next 2 years, hey, it worked really well for you, because through that one TVOD you are getting little amount every month from a subscriber. So I think for us TVOD now is like when you catch a fish, and then what you do with the fish, then it's yours. Then it's your subscribed fish, basically.
but it looks
the
like
little thing, I don't know the English.
I'm just curious because I'm interested in what you're saying. In order to have a successful TVOD and then at the end fuel your SVOD, you need successful theatrical releases. If you take away your theatrical releases, successful theatrical releases do not happen, then it diminishes the results of your VOD business.
Yes, I mean, there are exceptions. In our top 10 of online releases, there are films, local documentaries with audience that was built different ways, that are like, I don't know, either spiritual documentaries by filmmakers that already have built their audience many, many years ago, and now they have new movie, they just go online, and then they bring the whole audience to your platform because the audience follows them. So this is different ways how to do it, but those are exceptional, like a specialized things. When we speak about regular films, you are right. Yes, our VOD would not be successful without theatrical successes. Let's put it this way. Yeah.
So how is it, do you think, Matej, the situation with documentaries, first of all, is different because the audience is more used to find them online? Or do you work in an online environment only, or do you always make an event before the release online?
Yeah, I just want to add, because in terms of what Ivo was saying and what you were asking about, actually the governmental support or the state's support, because in terms of because we have this campaign called Go to the Cinema, idem do kina, which was idea of Association of Independent Producers and Zuzana Mistrikova, and so it was kind of small, but they have this campaign designed by a professional advertising agency and so on, and but it was very important in the time of pandemic. But I think
Matej, excuse me, who paid for this campaign? Was it an association of producers, distributors, or the state?
Audiovisual Fund supported it. Yeah, mostly I would say. Yeah, and so it was a yeah. And I wanted to say that that pandemic just show more obvious these tendencies about about cinemas losing their position, and so I'm really looking forward to next year and to actually to support or to some much bigger campaign from Ministry of Culture, actually, to to promote cinema and art and the whole art sector, because yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Because one thing is to supporting cinemas in the time of pandemic, but I'm really afraid about these tendencies which were visible or obvious even before the pandemic. And I would say it's the same for art house and commercial cinema as well. And yeah, what was your question? Sorry.
The world of documentaries, is it different? The audience of documentary films, is there a difference? Are they more used to go online?
Well, it depends. I do not have such experience to say it. I would say that in this time of pandemic, lots of people were asking us when we will publish Frem or Vasulka Effect, which is another documentary in our portfolio, online, because they weren't. The cinema was something what they consider as dangerous, I don't know, and so a lot of people were asking us about this dates of online releases, but we still believe that next year will be better and kind of safe, maybe, since March or April, and want to go through the ways we know and we believe in. Yeah.
And what is the way?
For example, what I wanted to mention in terms of this non-classical distribution is the project we're preparing for next year. Maybe it will be interesting for you. I don't know, but it's project based on the film called The Lines, which is documentary debut of Barbara Sliepková. It covers topics such as exploring the intimacy, or exploring and looking for intimacy in a public space, and exploring the borders of public and private in a public space. And it's pretty much inspired by these urban symphonies, and it's black and white art house documentary. And so we realized that these topics about the urban spaces and post-socialistic towns and so on are interesting, but we are aware of, or we know that this film is kind of small, you know, and so we find the way how to I would say promote it, I hope, effectively, through the actually different art piece, which is interdisciplinary artwork based on this film. It has the same title, which is The Lines, and we engaged excellent artists as a lighting designer and experimental sound designer, and it will contain the sequences from the film, and it will be kind of event. Very special, released on the biggest festival of modern art in Slovakia, which is the Biela Noc, White Night. Yeah, and so and this we want to do like 2 or 3 weeks before the regular distribution, and we are hoping for this connection in the title and in the experience what people will have on this interdisciplinary art piece, and then they will go. And in this kind of small film, it can really help. So for example, this is this is specifically what we do. Yeah. That's what I want to add. Yeah.
Jakub, you wanted to add something to it?
I wanted to add something and engage also Gábor and Ivo, because basically I believe that people who will be watching us are interested in documentaries. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into it and give you an example that recently 3 of us were contacted by a major, wonderful company from the US and France at the same time, offering us 3 films Two of these films were documentaries, distinguished documentaries that premiered in Sundance. One of these documentaries stands a big chance of being nominated for the Oscar, if not winning the Oscar, but rather nominated for the Oscar. Since we were offered these documentaries with a question, can we make them work online in Poland, Czech Republic, and in Hungary? I'm curious what was the process for my colleagues, but for me, I was really tempted for a long time. I thought like, maybe this is a chance. These are films that are getting a strong promotion in the US. Maybe I could make them work. And I was discussing it with my colleagues at the company. And unfortunately, we came to a realization there is no way for documentaries, even outstanding ones that premiere in Ji.hlava, ITFA, or Sundance, to make them work simply online without a festival platform, just simply by putting them on as many VOD platforms as possible in Poland, trying to do it PVOD, TVOD, SVOD, doesn't work. This was very discouraging for me because I remember that last Berlin, or this year's Berlin, there was a documentary that I saw called Gunda, black and white, from Wiktor Kosakowski, wordless. And I picked it up because I knew that even though it's hardcore art, beautiful film, it has a topic and I can make it work in cinemas. I didn't have a chance to release it yet, but if that same film, Gunda, was offered to me in the package of those outstanding documentaries aiming at the VOD, probably I would have to decline and refuse to take it. So that's, again, what I'm trying to say is even with documentaries, topical films, it's still, I need a theatrical platform to make them work when I'm making decisions. And I'm just very curious what Gábor and Ivo were thinking or, considering when they were offered same films as I got, like, for VOD platform. Was it an immediate no, or, you were close to getting these films? Am I allowed to ask these questions, Marta?
Yes, you are.
That people are, checking what about documentaries during COVID times? Can distributors buy them for the online? So that's why I wanted to start from an example. Thank you.
We bought Gunda together with Jakub and Ivo, and we will have the first pre-screenings just now at Mozinet Film Days. The release is going to be in December. And actually, I just in the last few days. So first of all, I was pretty sure about this movie. I mean, this is a movie where you can really build a hype around it. There is some buzz around the movie internationally. You know which kind of people you should have as like influencers who would step behind the movie. And now I started to be a little bit scared about this movie because I have the feeling that this movie is to an audience who is taking their health more seriously than the usual audience. They are much more, they follow much more what's happening, and probably they would not go to the cinema because they say that I don't want to risk. So now I have the feeling that this movie is not going to work in the cinemas. Because of the COVID situation, or to put it other ways, if there were no COVID, this movie would have like 5 times more admissions in Hungary than now, and the usual ratio is much smaller. So we are losing much more audience than we had other movies, to put it shortly. But getting to your big question, so like, after we release the movie in the cinemas and if we see that it's not working and there are no people coming, then of course we can do a fast VOD release, especially if we don't have this obligation that Ivo mentioned, that in the multiplexes you have to give them a 4 months exclusive window, meaning that no other platform should have the movie for 4 months. So if we fail with the movie in the cinemas in December and we put it online in like February, I still don't feel that people would find this movie online. I have the feeling that most of our money should come from the cinemas, but maybe the times are changing and things are changing. I don't know. But when I'm thinking about our successful documentary releases. Mostly they didn't do so much online. But I have to add that like one of our, okay, so like two of our biggest documentary releases, we only had theatrical rights. One was Three Identical Strangers. That's a Universal movie where we had theatrical rights, and I have no idea what happened in the movie online because we didn't have those rights. And the other movie is called Ultra. It's a Hungarian movie produced by HBO about ultramarathon running. We had very nice results online, but theatrically, but HBO had the online rights. And again, I don't have any results because they didn't share the results. So probably their online results were pretty amazing. That's my guess. But I would not go for a movie only to have it online.
And Ivo?
For us, we love documentaries. Our biggest films ever are all documentaries. So, yeah, I mean, for me, documentary or feature, you know, drama is the same, more or less. I need to know, or we need to know with our team, who is the audience of that film. And no matter what kind of film it is, when we look at a film and we love it, but we have no idea to whom we could sell the film, then we are lost. And with documentaries, usually it's about the theme, about the topic. If we believe that there is audience for a certain type, for the topic it's touching, then we usually like to go for that film. And yeah, that's so basically, if the question was, is there any difference between documentaries and feature films, or you know, in how the way you work with it? Not really. We just approach them the same. And as I said at the beginning, commercially for us, the most successful films are definitely documentaries here, local documentaries mostly. The question about online that Jakub brought, again, it's the same. I mean, there is no way we could find substantial economy behind releasing a documentary online without either already audience that exists for the film before we release it, or without successful theatrical release that actually creates the audience for the film online. I just remembered though that there are exceptions also online between films among films that didn't work so much in theaters and then they worked excellently online. Jakub, this is for you. We had few exceptions. Usually those are films that are from the picture, from the first picture, those are films that are promising some kind of nudity or sexual scenes in the film. Those work great online on SVOD mainly, on commercial SVODs. We had a German movie called Vlhká místa, I think, Wet Places. Not such a good film, but we released it theatrically with very little, you know, attention, and it was basically a failure. And then it worked excellently, and it still works excellently online. My explanation, the same goes for Nymphomaniac, of course, Lars von Trier. Anytime there is some kind of promised sex on the cover, usually it gets a lot of clicks online on the SVOD. My understanding is, very amateur understanding, is that many subscribers, households, you know, have their, like the teenage kids would come from school and just look at the various titles on Netflix or Aerofilms or Voyo or any big platform that whatever they have subscribed, and just click on things that could be interesting for them. So I think while teenage audience is very far from going to see this type of films in cinemas, because they're not commercial cinemas. Imagine, you are 16 and you go to an art house cinema. It's not happening so much. In the same time, this is new audience for the films online. They probably don't watch the whole film because as soon as they click on it, they realize this is not what they were looking for. It's in German with subtitles. It's complicated, and then they drop off. But already money in the bank, right? Because they clicked on it on SVOD. So this is one example, and also many times we have great numbers coming from the commercial VOD platforms, from films that are more into thriller, into genre type of films that have average or below average release in cinemas. They usually also work greatly online, like the genre film that are promising, pace, violence, cop, killer, whatever. These type of films also get a lot of clicks on SVOD. So we actually do have some films that gained more money on VOD than theatrical. But I would say this is exception from the general rule.
Let me just interrupt for a second. You're saying that sex sells, and we know it. And also in Japan, let's say in the 80s, when there was a massive economic crisis, they figured they are not making just regular dramas. They are switching to pinku films, like soft erotic films that were selling immediately in cinemas. People wanted the relief. And I'm just wondering if this is not the case, not only with VOD, but with theaters. If you would put, let's say, all the upcoming lineup of Gábor, 8 films into a festival, the top films, and there would be one film with a very graphic sex scene, like let's take Dau, for example, that was in Berlin. Gábor, which film would be chosen by your audience if there are like 8 films that you're selling and one has this, famous graphic scene? What Hungarian audience would go for? I'm just curious.
Jakub, because you know that I just told you this morning that Dau is selling really nice for us from these 8 movies. I don't think that it is selling because of the sex scene, because probably people don't know about the sex scene yet. After watching the movie, they will know about it, but this is not the kind of movie that you would recommend to somebody because of the sex scene, I think. It's what we are experiencing as well, what Ivo said. So we are changing sometimes the pictures on Cinego, on our VOD platform, and checking, like now, one of the top films is an Austrian drama from a few years ago. What was the English title? It's something like with a mouse. Anyway, on the poster, it's not our movie. I don't remember it, but I've seen the movie. It's an okay movie, but nothing happened with it in the cinemas. But on the picture, there's a naked guy sitting in the snow, and a lot of people are watching this movie now, and like this is the number 1 movie on Cinego at the moment. And it's
because of that naked guy sitting on the snow.
Think that, there is no other reason for it. Why would more people watch this than Parasite, than Shoplifters, than all the others that are in the top 10 or whatever? And when this film became available on SVOD, it just jumped up. But before, it was there on TVOD for 3 or 4 months. And nothing happened with the movie.
Let me tell you, if we all get naked now, this discussion will have a lot of views.
All right, you start, Ivo. You are at home. You start.
I'm a shy person.
Yeah, you are only brave in ideas, right?
But guys, let's get serious, because these are horrible conclusions. I want to get it straight. If this is what sells, then our work is meaningless. It's only about working with basic instincts. That's what I'm saying. And we were promoting films that we believed in because of other things. But if you're discovering these rules, of course, they apply to majority of youngsters. I don't know. They are curious. But at the same time, I hope that there's a way to introduce, films like Gunda about the naked pig and its life, and still turn it into a social event, a discussion, right? Because
I was mentioning it as a point of observation. It doesn't, necessarily lead me to buy only naked movies from now on. So it's just one of the few stones in the big mosaic of the market, and it's a surprising one. I wouldn't expect that when from time to time you look at the online numbers in general, and you have 300 films, and suddenly you look at one of the column and it's like, wow, so much money, what film is it? And then you find out it's about a movie that you would never expect it. Then you start asking question, why this movie particularly works better than all the great other movies, and then you find some conclusions, and you realize that the two examples of genre and of sex are actually big, strong selling points, maybe much stronger online than in theatrical life. That was my point of observation.
I completely agree. So these movies work very differently in cinemas, because when then you are at home, and when these people are at home and they just they are like clickbaits. I mean, it's not such a big special phenomenon, because the same things are happening on our biggest websites, news sites, that sometimes you have some pictures there and then people just click on it because they expect something sexy happening. This is, it's a different things we are watching at home, and different things we are watching in the cinemas. What we are looking for, getting back to Jakub's thing, what we are looking for is some kind of special things. And Dau is special, not because of the sex, I think. Gunda is special. We are looking for these things, and we try to promote them to the audience in a way that they would feel that they are missing something out if they don't watch this movie. So that this is not the usual thing. Of course, now in the multiplexes, as I told when we started the discussion, like with the Translators, that's a French thriller, we had a nice success because it was exactly what people just wanted. No surprises. It's a genre movie, but there are no genre movies now in the multiplexes because Hollywood just stopped releasing these movies. So, but that doesn't mean that I would like to get onto that field, and I would look for genre movies now and put them into the multiplexes, hoping that the situation will go on for a long time and there will be no competition.
So basically we can conclude that we know theatrical audience way better than we know the habits of a VOD audience. Let's put it this way, maybe. In this moment.
I'm not sure, because it's on online. It's very easy to collect all kind of data. So like when we are thinking or when we are discussing with my team, like, okay, so this movie was a big success, what happened? We can only make guesses, like who were the people who watched it. We are not there in the cinema. We don't own our own cinema. So we don't know if these are really the 35 plus women who went there, or somehow 22-year-old guys went to see the movie. And online you have a lot of data and you can learn from it. But building up a movie, like branding a movie and promoting a movie, for that we really do need the cinemas and the theatrical release.
And you also, Jakub, touched one of the topics that we wanted to discuss now, and I guess that it's about time that we will finish with this question, and that is, you said that you were offered the films together, or that you buy films together. Is there any kind of cooperation between you going on? And do you think that being such a small region as Visegrad is it a better strategy to cooperate in terms of acquisitions?
Absolutely, 1000%. It's obvious that when you make quick decisions, especially when they involve a lot of money, it's good to be able to ask for an advice, people you trust, people who think in the same way as you do, people who have great experience, people who watch as many films as you do. So in our case, it's an obvious friend. It's more than just, you know, business relation. It's friendship based on trust and respect. And I am probably consulting every decision nowadays. I'm making almost every decision that concerns acquisitions with my friends from Hungary and Czech Republic. Friends, which means Gábor and Ivo. That's what I mean. Like, our companies resemble a little bit, you know, each other. And it really makes sense. Sometimes, you know, because of what these guys told me, I did not spend a lot of money. Sometimes I did buy great films, like from Bruno Dumont, thanks to Gábor's advice, let's say. It's all really, it's been a relationship for, I don't know, many years now. And we also tried to acquire together. We made joint offers. And in a way, just to give you one example, Parasite is a child of our joint activities, of our joint actions. And they started long time ago, because we started with Handmaiden, I guess, in this particular case, reading the script, watching early excerpts from the film promo, and we encouraged ourselves to go for Handmaiden, a very long 2.5-hour lesbian thriller from Park Chan-wook, who had a success with Oldboy, but that was a long time ago. So the company, the Korean great company, CJ, already considered us as a group. And when the Parasite was ready, they contacted the three of us, and three of us came and considered the project. And we, I think there was no way the film would be sold to one of us. We were already kind of a group. That's an extreme example. It doesn't work this way all the time, but it really helps, because we are judging the project together. And, you know, you're less lonely in the whole process of decision making. It's great. Of course, sometimes we make wrong decisions, but it's also okay. Without making these wrong decisions, we wouldn't be able to score things like Parasite. I believe this is the biggest success we ever had, which is buying on a still script basis a film that later on becomes the first ever non-English speaking Oscar winner. I mean, we were probably one of the first distributors in the world to go for that project, simply because three of us loved that script and loved that story and loved the director. But others were just thinking that we're nuts. But we had our group, so it encouraged to go for it very early. That was the best thing, I think, that happened to us within the Visegrad.
Is there anything you want to add, Ivo?
No, I totally agree. It's in many times the salespeople stand in front of question: do I want to, you know, write a contract, especially with the bigger films, for such a small territory like Czech Republic or Hungary or many others, or do I just want to sell it to TV because it's so much administration work and it's not worth the couple $1,000 that I get from these people from the end of nowhere. So it's like working together also opens bigger opportunities. Of course, Poland is one of the major and big territories in Europe. So being together with Poland opens doors to many new opportunities that would be very, very difficult to reach as a single territory. And especially with Jakub's endless social talent for meeting people, remembering names and faces, you know, there is a lot of big advantage I can take from that, to be honest. And sometimes it's extra work because, you know, if you are on your own, you can go directly and express yourself right away. When you're working in a group, especially in the market where things move very fast sometimes, It's not very easy to coordinate, WhatsApp is clicking constantly, people are on screenings. So sometimes it is stressful, right, guys? But at the end, it's worth it. It's worth the second and the third opinion, and to gain the power together rather than, stay alone as a lone soldier in the middle of the field, of the battlefield. So besides, besides that, I know everything about the two guys' health state and private life, so it's also super interesting. But I guess this is not the topic of this discussion.
Yeah, so I can't add so many things. I enjoy sharing the excitement and the concerns and the work and our dreams with these two friends. And actually now I became, when we started this whole stuff, I became almost a bit emotional. I mean, seeing you after since February, this is the first time. Although we are on the phone sometimes, but this is, thank you, Ji.hlava, for this.
Yes, but we are constantly in touch. We tell each other dreams, what we had, what kind of dreams we had in the morning. So, we are texting each other. So it's all about sharing knowledge about films, tips, because you have to act very quickly when you're at these markets and festivals, right? You can consult your offices. Sometimes they would rather, but they would usually put you in doubt. They would say that they don't know, maybe this story might be good or not, maybe this director is still sexy or not. And if you have other people so involved as you are that saw the same materials as you did, it's much easier. And sometimes you get overexcited. Like I remember in Toronto with Ivo, we were at the offices of the company of the guy that is now imprisoned, and we were fighting together. He's the famous mogul that I don't want to use even his name, but he produced the film by Paul Thomas Anderson called The Master that I very much loved. And maybe we went a little bit over the board. We got overexcited and paid a little bit too much that we should. I'm still very happy that we at the end released The Master in cinemas. So it's risky, because if you're together and you fall together for a film, you might overspend rather than, because you lack that doubt. It's very hard to cool yourself if you're surrounded by two guys who are also, oh my God, we've seen a masterpiece, we have to go for this, let's do it. Then you maybe overspend. So that's a risky part of the process, but yeah. But it makes sense. At the end of the day, I think that films that we shared together, no matter if it was Gunda, Parasite, or The Master, or Son of Soul, are the films that will stand out in 10 years, like these contemporary classics, even if they underperform, like, some films do underperform at the moment when they're released, but at the end, their quality stands out. We didn't make that many wrong decisions, I guess, in terms of like buying really something that was very weak, very badly reviewed. No.
Can I add something? Yeah, for now we don't have such a friend. But for example, Ji.hlava is our big friend, and it was a big pleasure for us to organizing Echoes of Ji.hlava in Bratislava for 2 months this summer. But in terms of the collaborative process, I want to add something which is, in my opinion, interesting, and it's that we have opportunity to consult the project in the process of creating it. Like we will distribute like 3 or 4 films which we next year, hopefully, which we already know now and which we are already consulting with their directors and producers, which is kind of interesting experience for us, yeah, because and also I think that also for the directors. So I like this kind of process, yeah. In terms of collaborative.
So I guess that we can conclude with the fact that collaboration is way better and way stronger tool than being standalone. So thank you very much for you being the part of the discussion. Thank you to the audience for staying with us. and hopefully we will meet in person next year in Ji.hlava.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marta.
Bye.
Bye.